I stood in the wreckage of my family's living room, glass crunching under my boots. The framed photos that once lined the mantel, smiling faces from Thanksgivings, graduations, and church picnics, lay in jagged pieces across the hardwood floor. My mother's scream still echoed in my ears, sharp and raw, as she'd hurled the last frame at the wall. "You no son of mine," she'd spat, her face twisted with a rage I'd never seen before. My father, Pastor Daniel Harper, hadn't said a word. He just stared, his eyes cold as the Seattle rain pelting the windows outside. That was an hour ago. Now, the house was silent, and I was alone, my duffel bag slung over my shoulder, the weight of their rejection heavier than anything I carried. My name is Elias Harper, and at 22, I just burned my life to the ground. Not because I wanted to, but because I couldn't keep lying. I come out to my parents, told them I was gay, and in less than 10 minutes, I'd gone from their golden boy to a stranger they wanted erased. But this story doesn't start with that fight. It starts with the one person who never turned her back on me, my Aunt Lila Monroe. And it's her voice, soft and steady, that I'm clinging to as I step into the rain, my heart pounding like a drum in my chest. I was 16 when I first realized I wasn't like the other boys in our small Seattle suburb. While my friends chased girls at school dances, I found myself stealing glances at Jace Thornton, the quarterback with a smile that could light up a room. His laugh, low and warm, made my stomach flip in ways I couldn't explain. I'd lie awake at night, replaying the way his hand brushed mine during biology lab, wondering if he felt the same spark. But in a town where my father's church dictated morality, those feelings were a secret I buried deep. My family's reputation was everything. God, honor, and appearances in that order. The Harpers were pillars of the community, untouchable, unshakable. Until I shook them. Lila was the exception. My father's older sister. She was a former photojournalist who'd traveled the world, capturing wars, protests, and moments of raw human truth. She'd settled back in Seattle after a decade abroad, her tiny apartment filled with black and white prints and stories that smelled of cigarette smoke and adventure. Lila was the family rebel, the one who skipped Sunday sermons to sip coffee on her balcony, her dark hair streaked with silver and her laugh as bold as her opinions. She was also the only one who saw me, really saw me, even when I was too scared to see myself. "You've got fire in you, Elias," she'd say, handing me a Polaroid camera during one of our weekend walks along Puget Sound. "Don't let anyone dim it." I'd snap photos of driftwood, seagulls, or her silhouette against the sunset, her scarf fluttering in the wind. Those moments felt like freedom, like I could be someone other than Pastor Harper's son. Lila never asked why I blushed when she teased me about crushes. She just knew, and she never judged. When I came out to her at 18, sitting on her worn leather couch with a mug of chamomile tea, I was shaking. I'd rehearsed the words 100 times, whispered them to the mirror, to the waves, to the dark. "Lila, I'm gay." My voice cracked, barely audible. She set down her mug, her hazel eyes steady, and pulled me into a hug that smelled of lavender and ink. "You're perfect, kid," she whispered. "Don't ever let anyone tell you otherwise." That was the first time I felt like I could breathe. But my parents were a different story. I waited 4 years, hoping for the right moment, praying they'd understand. I was wrong. The night I told them started with hope, dinner at our polished oak table, my mother's famous pot roast, my father's usual lecture about faith. I'd planned to ease into it, but the words slipped out like a confession. "Mom, Dad, I need to tell you something. I'm gay." The room froze. My mother's fork clattered to her plate. My father's jaw tightened, his knuckles white around his glass. Then came the shouting, the tears, the shattering of everything I'd known. Now, standing in the rain, I dialed Lila's number. My hands trembled, not from the cold, but from the fear that even she might turn me away. She picked up on the second ring. "Elias? Where are you?" Her voice was a lifeline, pulling me from the edge. "Outside," I said, my throat tight. "If they kick me out, stay there. I'm coming." No hesitation, no questions. Just Lila as always. 20 minutes later, her beat-up Jeep pulled up, headlights cutting through the downpour. She stepped out, her leather jacket slick with rain, and wrapped me in a hug that felt like home. "You're with me now," she said, her voice fierce. "Let's go." We drove to her apartment in Capitol Hill, Seattle's vibrant heart, where rainbow flags hung proudly and strangers smiled without judgment. Her place was a sanctuary. Walls covered in framed photos, a record player spinning Billie Holiday, and a couch that sagged just right. I collapsed onto it, still clutching my duffel, my clothes damp and my heart raw. Lila handed me a towel and a mug of something warm. "Talk when you're ready," she said, sitting across from me, her boots propped on a stack of old magazines. I didn't know where to start. The fight, the glass, my mother's words, they churned in my head like a storm. But Lila waited, patient, her presence enough to keep me grounded. "I thought they'd at least listen," I finally said, my voice hoarse. "I thought maybe they'd love me anyway." She leaned forward, her eyes soft but unflinching. "Some people cling to rules over hearts. That's their failure, not yours." She reached for a photo on the coffee table, a candid shot of me at 15, laughing on a pier with an ice cream cone. "This is who you are, Elias, not their version of you." I stared at the photo, my younger self so carefree, so unaware of the battles ahead. "What do I do now?" I asked, the question heavy with fear and possibility. "You live," she said simply. "You find your people, your place, and you don't let anyone erase you." That night, I slept on Lila's couch, the city's hum a strange comfort. But sleep didn't come easy. My phone buzzed with a single text from my brother, Nathan, the golden son who'd always followed our father's lead. "Don't come back. You've done enough." No warmth, no regret, just a blade disguised as words. I deleted it, but the sting lingered. The next morning, Lila dragged me to a cafe down the street, a quirky spot with mismatched chairs and baristas who flirted with everyone. "You need coffee and a plan," she said, sliding a latte across the table. Her confidence was infectious, but I felt like a ghost, untethered from the life I'd known. That's when I saw him. Across the cafe, a guy with tousled black hair and a leather jacket, sketching in a notebook. His eyes, a deep hazel, flicked up and met mine. My breath caught, a spark igniting somewhere deep. He smiled, a slow, knowing curve of his lips, and I felt my face heat. Lila noticed, nudging me with a grin. "Go say hi. What's the worst that could happen?" I hesitated, my heart racing. But something in her words, "You live," pushed me forward. I walked over, my voice shaky but determined. "Hey, I'm Elias. Mind if I sit here?" He looked up, his smile widening. "Leo," he said, his voice warm, like a song I wanted to hear again. "Have a seat, Elias." As I sat, the cafe's noise faded, and for the first time in days, I felt seen. Not as Pastor Harper's son, not as a scandal, but as me. Leo's fingers brushed mine as he showed me his sketch, a city skyline, bold and alive. The touch sent a shiver through me, electric and new. But that moment, that spark, was just the beginning. What I didn't know was that Leo carried secrets of his own, ones that would pull me into a world of danger and desire I wasn't prepared for. And Lila, my rock, was hiding something too, a plan she'd set in motion years ago, one that would change everything I thought I knew about family, love, and myself. The cafe's warmth wrapped around me like a promise, but Leo's eyes, hazel, flecked with gold, held a danger I couldn't resist. I sat across from him, my latte cooling, my pulse racing. His sketchbook lay open, the Seattle skyline jagged and alive under his pencil. "You're an artist," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "Something like that," Leo replied, his smile teasing, like he knew a secret I didn't. His leather jacket hugged his shoulders, and when he leaned closer, the scent of cedar and ink hit me, stirring something reckless in my chest. I was 22, homeless in every way that mattered. Yet here I was flirting with a stranger while my life unraveled. Maybe Lila was right. Living meant taking risks, even stupid ones. But the moment shattered when my phone buzzed. A new text from an unknown number. "You can't hide, Elias. We know where you are." My stomach dropped. I glanced around the cafe, half expecting to see my brother Nathan's cold stare or my father's looming shadow. Nothing. Just hipsters typing on laptops and baristas steaming milk. Leo noticed my tension, his brow furrowing. "You okay?" "Yeah," I lied, shoving the phone into my pocket. "Just family stuff." I wasn't ready to spill my mess to a guy I just met, no matter how his touch made my skin hum. But the text lingered, a splinter I couldn't ignore. Who was we? And how did they know I was here? Lila's apartment became my refuge, but Capitol Hill's pulse kept me restless. Over the next week, I crashed on her couch, my duffel bag a constant reminder of my exile. Lila didn't pry, but she had a way of coaxing truths out of me. One night, over takeout dumplings, I told her about the cafe, about Leo. Her eyes sparkled. "Sounds like trouble," she said, popping a dumpling in her mouth. "The good kind. He's just a guy," I said, but my blush betrayed me. Lila laughed, her silver-streaked hair catching the lamplight. She didn't push, but she did something else. Handed me a key. "This place is yours as long as you need it," she said. "But you got to start building something, Elias. A job, a plan. You're not just surviving anymore." Her words lit a fire in me. The next day, I hit the streets, resume in hand, applying at every bookstore, cafe, and gallery in the neighborhood. Capitol Hill buzzed with life. Drag queens strutting outside bars, musicians busking on corners, couples holding hands without fear. It was a world I'd only dreamed of, and I wanted to belong. By afternoon, I landed a part-time gig at a used bookstore, Pages and Pride, a cozy spot with rainbow stickers on the windows and shelves stuffed with queer literature. The owner, Marla, a butch woman with a buzz cut and a quick laugh, hired me on spot. "You've got a spark," she said. "Don't lose it." Work gave me purpose, but Leo kept me awake at night. We'd texted since the cafe, his messages flirty but cryptic. "Meet me at the pier tonight?" Or "Saw a mural that reminded me of you." I couldn't resist his pull, like a moth to a flame I knew might burn. On Friday, I agreed to meet him at Pike Place Market, where the air smelled of fish and flowers. He was waiting by the neon sign, his jacket open to reveal a fitted black shirt that hugged his chest. My mouth went dry. "You clean up nice," he said, eyeing my flannel and jeans. His grin was trouble, and I was already in too deep. We wandered the market, sharing a bag of warm donuts, our shoulders brushing as we dodged tourists. Leo's stories were vivid, tales of late-night art sessions, of sneaking into abandoned warehouses to paint murals. But he dodged questions about his past, his family, his roots. "I'm an out kind of guy," he said, licking sugar from his fingers. The gesture was innocent, but it sent a jolt through me, my imagination running wild. Then it happened. As we paused by a street performer strumming a guitar, Leo's hand grazed mine, deliberate this time. His fingers lingered, warm and sure, and when I didn't pull away, he laced them with mine. My heart pounded, the world narrowing to the heat of his touch. "Is this okay?" he asked, his voice low. "More than okay," I whispered, and his smile was a victory I wanted to chase. For the first time since my parents' rejection, I felt alive, desired, whole. But the moment was fleeting. My phone buzzed again, another unknown number. "You don't belong here. Leave Seattle." I froze, the warmth of Leo's hand turning cold. He noticed his eyes narrowing. "What's going on, Elias?" I wanted to tell him, but fear choked me. Instead, I mumbled nothing. Just spam. He didn't buy it, but he didn't push. Not yet. That night, back at Lila's, I showed her the texts. Her face hardened, the playful aunt replaced by the photojournalist who'd faced danger in war zones. "This isn't random," she said, pacing. "Someone's targeting you." She grabbed her laptop, her fingers flying as she searched for clues. Reverse phone lookups, local forums, anything. "Your family's got influence, Elias. Your dad's church isn't just a building. It's a network. They don't let go easy." Her words hit like a punch. I'd known my father's congregation was powerful, with ties to politicians and donors across Washington. But to track me? To threaten me? It felt surreal, like a thriller I'd stumbled into. Lila's eyes softened as she saw my fear. "We'll figure this out," she promised. But you need to be careful, especially with Leo. Leo, I frowned. He's just a stranger, she cut in. A hot one, sure, but you don't know him. Not really. Her warning stung, but it planted a seed of doubt. Leo's charm was intoxicating, but his evasiveness, his vague past. Could he be connected to this? I pushed the thought away, but it lingered like a shadow. The next day, I met Leo at a dive bar in Belltown, a gritty spot with sticky floors and neon lights. He was waiting in a booth, a beer in hand, his hair tousled like he'd just rolled out of bed. The sight of him, lean, confident, a little dangerous, made my pulse spike. "Rough day?" he asked, sliding a drink my way. "Something like that," I said, sipping the soda I'd ordered. I wanted to trust him, to lose myself in the way his knee brushed mine under the table. But Lila's warning echoed, and those texts burned in my mind. I took a chance. "Leo, you ever get weird messages? Like, from people who shouldn't know where you are?" His expression flickered, a crack in his easy charm. "What kind of messages?" he asked, too casual. I hesitated, then showed him the texts. His jaw tightened, and for a moment, he looked guilty. "Elias, you need to be careful," he said, his voice low. "Seattle's not as safe as it seems." Before I could press him, the bar's door swung open, and a man strode in, tall, broad-shouldered, with a scar across his cheek. Leo tensed, his hand gripping my wrist. "Don't look," he whispered, but it was too late. The man's eyes locked on us, cold and deliberate. He didn't approach, just stood by the bar, watching. My heart raced, the air thick with unspoken threat. "Leo, who is that?" The air in the Belltown dive bar turned thick like the moment before a storm breaks. Leo's grip on my wrist was tight, his hazel eyes darting between me and the scarred man by the bar. "We need to go," he whispered, his voice low but urgent. My heart pounded, the stranger's cold stare boring into us like a warning I didn't understand. I wanted to demand answers. Who is he? What's going on? But Leo was already pulling me toward the back exit, his hand warm and insistent against mine. Outside, the Seattle night was damp, the alley slick with rain and the faint glow of neon signs. Leo didn't let go until we reached a quiet street corner, his breath visible in the chilly air. "Elias, listen," he said, his voice softer now, but still edged with something I couldn't place. Fear, maybe your guilt. "You're caught up in something bigger than you know." "Caught up in what?" I snapped, yanking my hand free. My pulse was still racing, the memory of that man's stare like a splinter in my mind. "You're dodging me, Leo. Those texts, that guy, who's after me? And why do you look like you know more than you're saying?" He ran a hand through his tousled hair, his jaw tight. For a moment, I thought he'd bolt, but then he stepped closer, so close I could smell the cedar on his jacket and see the tension in his eyes. "I'm not who you think I am," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "But I'm not your enemy, either. I swear." "Then who are you?" I demanded, my voice cracking. I wanted to trust him, to lean into the heat of his presence, but Lila's warning echoed. "You don't know him." "Not really." And now, with my life unraveling and threats piling up, I couldn't afford blind faith, not even for a guy whose smile made my knees weak. Leo hesitated, then pulled out his phone, his fingers moving fast. "Meet me tomorrow at Gasworks Park, noon. I'll explain everything." He pressed a quick kiss to my cheek, the brief warmth of his lips sending a shiver through me despite my anger. Before I could respond, he was gone, disappearing into the neon-lit night like a ghost. Back at Lila's apartment, I couldn't sleep. The couch felt too small, the city's hum too loud. I replayed the night, the bar, the scarred man, Leo's cryptic words. My phone sat silent, no new texts, but the earlier ones burned in my memory. "You don't belong here. Leave Seattle." I wanted to tell Lila everything, but she was out covering a late-night protest for a local paper. Her absence left me alone with my thoughts, and they were a dangerous place to be. By morning, I was a wreck, my eyes gritty from lack of sleep. Lila breezed in with coffee and bagels, her leather jacket still damp from the rain. "You look like hell," she said, tossing me a bagel. "Spiel." I told her about the bar, the man, and Leo's vague promises. Her expression darkened. The photojournalist in her taking over. This isn't just your family, Elias, she said, pacing. Your dad's church has connections, deep ones. I've seen it before, back when I was digging into their funding for a story. They don't just preach, they control. And they don't like loose ends. Loose ends? I echoed, my stomach twisting. You think I'm a loose end? She stopped, her hazel eyes meeting mine. You're a threat. You walked away. You're living your truth, and that scares them. People like your father, they don't forgive defiance. She hesitated, then added, and Leo, he's a wild card. You sure he's not part of this? Her words hit hard. I wanted to defend Leo, to cling to the spark between us, but doubt gnawed at me. His evasiveness, his reaction to the scar man, it didn't add up. He said he'd explain today. I said, my voice small. At Gasworks. Lila nodded, but her eyes were sharp. Go. But take this. She handed me a small canister of pepper spray, her expression deadly serious. And if anything feels off, you run. Promise me. I promised, but as I left for the park, my nerves were electric. The weight of the pepper spray in my pocket was a reminder of how far my life had spiraled from the quiet suburb I'd grown up in. Gasworks Park was a mix of industrial grit and natural beauty, its rusted machinery stark against the green hills and Lake Union shimmer. I arrived early, my flannel jacket too warm for the spring sun. The park was alive with joggers, dog walkers, and kite flyers, but I felt exposed like eyes were watching from every shadow. Leo showed up at noon sharp, his leather jacket swapped for a fitted gray hoodie that did nothing to hide his lean frame. My heart skipped, traitor that it was, but I kept my distance. Start talking, I said, crossing my arms. No more games. The burner phone Lila gave me felt like a grenade in my pocket, its weight a reminder of the life I was running from, and the one I was running toward. I stood in her apartment, my duffel packed for Portland, Leo's text burning in my mind. I'm sorry. Meet me one more time. I have proof about them, about me. Please. I wanted to ignore it, to bury the ache his words stirred, but my heart wouldn't let go. Leo had lied, betrayed me. Yet his confession at Gasworks Park, I'm falling for you, felt like a truth I couldn't shake. As I zipped my bag, Lila's voice cut through my thoughts. You're not seriously considering meeting him, she said, leaning against the doorway, her arms crossed. Her silver-streaked hair was pulled back, her eyes sharp with worry. Elias, he's a liability. You're already a target. I know, I said, my voice tight. But what if he's telling the truth? What if he has something that can help us? I met her gaze, my resolve hardening. I'm not running blind, Lila. I need answers. She sighed, rubbing her temples. Fine, but you're not going alone, and we're doing this my way. Her tone left no room for argument. Lila had been a photojournalist in war zones. She knew how to navigate danger. I trusted her, but the pull of Leo's hazel eyes, his warm touch, was a current I couldn't escape. Underscore. Lila's plan was simple but nerve-wracking. Leo had texted a location. A warehouse in Seattle's Soto district, industrial and isolated, the kind of place where secrets thrived. Lila insisted on backup. Her friend Marcus, a former cop turned private security, would tail us. He's discreet, she said, handing me a Bluetooth earpiece. If anything goes south, Marcus pulls you out. No heroics. I nodded, my stomach churning as we drove through the city's gray dusk. The Soto district was a maze of loading docks and graffiti-tagged walls, the air heavy with diesel and salt from the nearby waterfront. Lila parked a block away, her Jeep blending into the shadows. She adjusted my earpiece, her hands steady. Stay sharp, Elias. And don't let that pretty boy cloud your judgment. I managed a weak smile, but my nerves were electric. The warehouse loomed ahead, its windows dark, a single light flickering by the side door. I stepped out, the pepper spray in my pocket a small comfort. Lila's voice crackled in my ear. Marcus is in position. You've got 5 minutes before I drag you out myself. The door creaked as I pushed it open, revealing a cavernous space lit by dim fluorescence. Crates and old machinery cast long shadows, and the air smelled of rust and oil. Leo stood in the center, his gray hoodie swapped for a black jacket that hugged his frame. My breath caught. He looked like trouble, the kind I wanted to dive into despite everything. But I kept my distance, my heart warring with my head. "Elias," he said, his voice soft but urgent. "You came. Talk," I said, crossing my arms. "You said you had proof. Show me." He nodded, pulling a flash drive from his pocket. "This is everything. Emails, financial records, names. The network your dad's church is tied to? They're not just preaching. They're laundering money, silencing dissenters, and worse. I was supposed to help them track you, but I couldn't." His eyes locked on mine, raw and pleading. I kept copies instead. I stared at the flash drive, my mind racing. If this was real, it could expose my father, the church, the whole rotten system. But trust was a luxury I couldn't afford. "Why should I believe you?" I asked, my voice sharp. "You lied to me, Leo. You played me." "I know," he said, stepping closer. The space between us crackled, his cedar scent pulling me in despite my anger. I was in too deep, Elias. They had leverage on me. My sister, she's sick, and they were paying for her treatment. But you changed everything. His hand brushed my arm, a fleeting touch that sent a shiver through me. "I'm trying to make it right." Before I could respond, a crash echoed from the back of the warehouse. Footsteps, heavy, deliberate, approached. Leo's face paled. "They found us," he whispered, grabbing my hand. "Run." We sprinted toward a side exit, my heart pounding as Lila's voice buzzed in my ear. "Elias, get out now." Marcus sees 3 guys armed. Panic surged, but Leo's grip kept me grounded. We burst through the door into an alley, only to freeze. The scarred man from the bar stood there, a gun glinting in his hand, his partner blocking the other end of the alley. We were trapped. "Hand over the drive," the scarred man said, his voice cold as steel. "And maybe the kid walks away." Leo stepped in front of me, his body a shield. "You're not touching him," he growled, his voice fierce. My chest tightened. Fear, gratitude, and something deeper tangled together. But I wasn't helpless. I slipped my hand into my pocket, fingers closing around the pepper spray. Lila's voice crackled again. "Marcus is moving in. Stall them." I took a shaky breath, stepping beside Leo. "You want the drive?" I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "Tell me who's behind this. My dad? The church?" The scarred man smirked. "You're in over your head, Harper. Give it up, and we'll let you run back to your little bookstore." I glanced at Leo, his jaw set, his eyes urging me to trust him. I didn't know if I could, but I knew I wasn't giving up. In one swift move, I yanked out the pepper spray and sprayed the scarred man, his howl echoing as he stumbled back. Leo tackled the other guy, a blur of fists and fury. I grabbed the flash drive from Leo's hand and bolted, Lila's voice guiding me. "Left now. Marcus is there." I rounded the corner, slamming into Marcus, a wall of muscle in a black jacket. He hustled me into a waiting car, Leo stumbling in behind us, blood trickling from a cut on his lip. The scar man's shouts faded as we sped away, my heart still racing. Leo's hand found mine, his touch a lifeline in the chaos. Understood. We ended up at a safe house in Tacoma, a nondescript bungalow Lila's contact had secured. Marcus stood watch outside, while Lila pored over the flash drive's contents on a laptop. I sat on a sagging couch, Leo beside me, his lip clean but swollen. The silence between us was heavy, charged with everything unsaid. "Lila was right," I said finally, my voice low. "You're trouble." He chuckled, wincing slightly. "The worst kind." His eyes softened, searching mine. "I am sorry, Elias. I never meant to drag you into this." "Then why did you?" I asked, my throat tight. "Why me?" He leaned closer, his voice barely a whisper. Because you're worth fighting for. His fingers brushed my cheek, and for a moment, I forgot the danger, the lies, the world outside. I wanted to kiss him, to lose myself in the heat of his gaze, but doubt held me back. Could I love someone who'd started as my betrayer? Lila interrupted, her face grim. This drives the real deal, she said, turning the laptop toward us. Emails linked my father's church to a shadowy group called the Covenant, funneling money through fake charities to silence critics, journalists, activists, even former members like me. One name stood out. Nathan Harper, my brother, listed as a key operative. My stomach churned. Nathan wasn't just following orders. He was leading the charge. There's more, Lila said, her voice tight. They're planning something big, a public move to reclaim their image. And Elias, you're their target. They want to make an example of you. I felt sick, the weight of my family's hatred crushing me. Leo's hand squeezed mine, grounding me. We can stop them, he said, his voice fierce. We have proof now. Lila nodded. But we need to move fast. They'll know we have this. Elias, you're not safe in Seattle or Portland. We need to get you somewhere they can't reach. I looked between them, Lila, my rock, and Leo, my wild card. The Covenant, my brother, my own father. They wanted me erased, but I was done running. I'm not hiding, I said, my voice steady. They want to fight? I'll give them one. Lila's eyes gleamed with pride, but Leo's expression was conflicted. Elias, this is bigger than you know, he said. The Covenant, they've got people everywhere, even in Tacoma. Before I could respond, Marcus burst in, his face tense. We've got company. Black SUV, 2 blocks out. They found us. My heart stopped. The safe house wasn't safe anymore, and the walls were closing in. The Tacoma safe house was no longer a haven. It was a trap. Marcus's warning, black SUV, 2 blocks out, sent a jolt through me, my pulse hammering as I grabbed my duffel. Lila was already moving, shoving the laptop with the flash drive into a backpack, her face a mask of focused fury. Leo stood by the window, peering through the blinds, his jaw tight. The faint glow of headlights crept closer, and I felt the walls of my world shrinking. Out the back now, Marcus barked, his broad frame blocking the door as he checked his gun. I wasn't used to this. Guns, chases, a life where every shadow hid a threat. Just weeks ago, I was shelving books at Pages and Pride, flirting with Leo, dreaming of a life where I could be myself. Now, I was a fugitive, hunted by my own family and their shadowy covenant. Leo grabbed my hand, his touch a fleeting anchor. Stay with me, he said, his hazel eyes fierce. I wanted to trust him, to lean into the heat of his presence. But the sting of his betrayal lingered. He'd been hired to spy on me, and though he claimed he'd switch sides, doubt gnawed at me. Still, his hand in mine felt like the only solid thing in this chaos. We slipped out the back door into a narrow alley, the night air-sharp with salt from Puget Sound. Lila led the way, Marcus covering our rear. The SUV's engine growled closer, tires screeching as it rounded the block. My heart pounded, but Lila's voice was steady. There's a marina 2 streets over, she whispered. My contact has a boat. Move. We ran, weaving through alleys cluttered with trash cans and rusted bikes. The marina's lights flickered ahead, a promise of escape. But as we reached the docks, a figure stepped from the shadows, my brother, Nathan. Tall, broad-shouldered, his face a mirror of our father's cold authority. He held no weapon, but his presence was a blade all its own. Elias, he said, his voice smooth but laced with venom. You're making this harder than it needs to be. I froze, my breath catching. Nathan, the golden son, the one who'd texted me to stay away, now stood between me and freedom. Lila stepped forward, her eyes blazing. Back off, Nathan. He's not yours to control. Nathan's gaze flicked to her, dismissive. Aunt Lila, always the rebel. You should have stayed out of this. He turned to me, his expression almost pitying. Come home, Elias. Repent, and the covenant will forgive you. Keep running, and you'll drag everyone down with you. His words hit like a punch, stirring the fear I'd fought to bury. Home. The word was a lie, a trap wrapped in nostalgia. I thought of our parents' house, the shattered photos, my mother's screams. That wasn't home, it was a cage. You're not my family, I said, my voice shaking but clear. You never were. Nathan's face hardened, and he raised a hand, signaling. Two men emerged from the shadows, the scarred man from the warehouse among them. My stomach dropped. Leo pushed me behind him, his body tense. You're not taking him, he growled, his voice low and dangerous. Marcus raised his gun, but Lila's hand on his arm stopped him. Not here, she hissed. Too many witnesses. The marina was quiet, but a few late-night boaters lingered nearby, their voices carrying over the water. Nathan smirked, sensing our hesitation. You can't run forever, he said, stepping closer. The Covenant owns this city. You think you're free, Elias? You're nothing without us. His words cut deep, but they also sparked something, a fire I'd felt when I first came out, when I chose truth over silence. I stepped forward, meeting his gaze. I'd rather be nothing than live your lie, I said. You're not God, Nathan. You're just a bully with a title. For a moment, he faltered, surprise flickering in his eyes. Then the scarred man lunged, and chaos erupted. Leo tackled him, fists flying, while Marcus grappled with the second thug. Lila pulled me toward the docks, but Nathan grabbed my arm, his grip bruising. You're coming with me, he snarled. Instinct took over. I twisted free, slamming my elbow into his chest. He staggered, and I ran, Lila's voice urging me on. We reached a small motorboat, its owner, a wiry man with a gray beard, already untying the ropes. Get in, he shouted. Leo and Marcus broke free, diving aboard as the boat's engine roared to life. Nathan's shouts faded as we sped across the water, the marina shrinking into the night. The boat took us to a secluded cove on Vashon Island, a short ride from Tacoma, but a world away. Lila's contact, a retired smuggler named Cal, owned a cabin hidden in the pines. It was sparse, wooden floors, a propane stove, no Wi-Fi. But it was safe for now. We collapsed inside, adrenaline fading into exhaustion. Marcus stood watch outside, while Cal brewed coffee that smelled like tar. Lila spread the flash drive's files on a rickety table, her face grim. Nathan's deeper in this than I thought, she said, pointing to an email. He's not just following orders. He's brokering deals for the Covenant, moving money through offshore accounts. Your dad's the face, but Nathan's the muscle. I stared at the screen, my brother's name a wound I couldn't close. He was my hero once, I said, my voice barely audible. We used to build forts, sneak cookies, laugh until we couldn't breathe. Now he wants me what? Locked up? Dead. Leo, sitting beside me, reached for my hand. His lip was still swollen from the warehouse fight, but his touch was gentle. He's lost Elias, he said. Not you. His fingers laced with mine, and the warmth of his skin steadied me, even as my heart wrestled with trust. I wanted to believe him, to lose myself in the spark between us, but his past, his lies, loomed like a shadow. Lila noticed, her eyes narrowing. You two need to sort this out, she said, standing. I'm checking the perimeter with Cal. Don't do anything stupid. She left, the door creaking shut, leaving me and Leo alone. The silence was heavy, charged with everything unsaid. I pulled my hand away, crossing my arms. You keep saying you're on my side, I said, my voice sharp. But how do I know, Leo? You were their spy. What's stopping you from flipping again? He leaned forward, his eyes searching mine. You, he said, his voice raw. You, what's stopping me? I've spent my life running jobs, lies, whatever kept my sister alive. But you make me want to stay. He reached out, his fingers brushing my cheek, and my breath hitched. I'm not perfect, Elias. But I'm here, and I'm fighting for you. His words were a current, pulling me under. I wanted to push him away, to protect myself, but the heat in his gaze, the sincerity in his voice, broke something in me. I leaned in, our lips meeting in a kiss that was desperate, electric, a collision of fear and longing. His hand slid to my waist, pulling me closer, and for a moment the world, the covenant, Nathan, the danger, disappeared. There was only Leo, his cedar scent, the soft press of his mouth, the promise of something real. But reality crashed back. The cabin door burst open, Lila's face pale. "We've got a problem," she said, holding up a radio. Cal picked up chatter. Coast Guard been tipped off, looking for a boat matching ours. The Covenant's pulling strings. My stomach dropped. Leo cursed under his breath, standing. "They're boxing us in," he said. "We can't stay here." Lila nodded, already packing. "Cal's got a truck. We head inland to Spokane. I got a friend there, off the grid. But we move now." I grabbed my duffel, my mind reeling. The kiss with Leo lingered, a spark in the storm, but danger was closing in. As we piled into Cal's truck, I glanced at Leo, his profile sharp against the moonlight. He'd given me a reason to fight, but he'd also brought this chaos. Could I love someone who'd started as my enemy? And Nathan, my brother, my betrayer, was out there hunting me. The Covenant wasn't just a threat. It was a machine, and I was its target. As the truck rumbled into the night, Lila handed me a burner phone. "No calls, no texts," she said. "But if we get split up, you know my number." Her eyes softened. "You're stronger than you know, Elias. Don't forget it." I nodded, clutching the phone. Spokane was a chance to regroup, to plan, but the Covenant's reach was long. And somewhere, Nathan was waiting, ready to strike. I wasn't just fighting for my life. I was fighting for my truth, my heart, and the chance to be more than a name they wanted erased. The truck's engine growled as we tore through the Washington night, the road to Spokane a blur of pine trees and moonlight. I sat in the back with Leo, our shoulders brushing with every bump, the memory of our kiss in the Vashon Island cabin a live wire between us. His cedar scent lingered, grounding me even as my world spun out of control. Lila rode shotgun, her eyes scanning the dark, while Cal, our grizzled driver, kept the radio low, tuned to a crackling news station. The Covenant was closing in, Coast Guard alerts, Nathan's betrayal, my father's church pulling strings like a puppet master. I wasn't just running for my life, I was running for my soul. "We'll hit Spokane by dawn," Cal said, his voice rough as gravel. "My buddy's got a farm. Remote, no paper trail. You'll be ghosts there." His words were meant to reassure, but they only tightened the knot in my chest. Ghosts. That's what I've been to my family since I came out. A shadow they wanted erased. Now I was fighting to be seen, to be real, and every mile felt like a gamble. Leo's hand rested on the seat, inches from mine. I wanted to reach for it, to anchor myself in his warmth, but doubt held me back. He'd been their spy, hired to betray me, and though he'd risked everything to protect me, trust was a fragile thing. His confession, "I'm falling for you," echoed in my mind, but so did Lila's warning. He's a wild card. I glanced at him, his profile sharp against the window, a bruise darkening his jaw from the marina fight. He was trouble, but he was also the only one who made me feel alive. "You okay?" he asked, his voice low, meant for me alone. His hazel eyes caught the moonlight, and my breath hitched. Even now, in this mess, he could unravel me with a look. "Define okay," I muttered, forcing a smile. "My brother's trying to drag me back to a cult, my dad's a criminal mastermind, and I'm stuck in a truck with a guy who might still be playing me." He winced, but his lips curved slightly. "Fair, but I'm not playing you, Elias. Not anymore." He leaned closer, his voice a whisper. "You're the reason I'm here, not them." His fingers brushed mine, a fleeting spark that sent heat through me. I didn't pull away, but I didn't lean in either. Not yet. Lila's voice cut through the tension. "Heads up," she said, pointing to the rearview mirror. "We've got a tail black sedan, been with us for 10 miles. My stomach dropped. Cal cursed, easing off the gas to test the car behind us. It slowed too, keeping pace, its headlights like predator's eyes. "Could be nothing," Marcus said from the front, his hand resting on the gun at his hip. But his tone was grim, and I knew better. The Covenant didn't play games. Nathan's face flashed in my mind. His cold stare at the marina, his promise to bring me back. Was he in that car, ready to finish what he started? Cal took a sharp turn onto a dirt road, the truck rattling as dust clouded the air. The sedan followed, closer now, its engine a low growl. "Hold on," Cal said, flooring it. My heart pounded, Leo's hand gripping mine as we braced against the seats. Lila pulled a map from the glove box, her journalist instincts kicking in. "There's a logging trail up ahead," she said. "Narrow, rough. They won't follow us there. Or we'll get stuck," Marcus muttered, but Cal was already veering left, the truck lurching onto a rutted path. Branches scraped the sides, the sedan's headlights fading, but not gone. My mind raced. Could we outrun them? And if we did, what then? The Covenant's reach was vast, and Spokane was just a pit stop, not a solution. The trail ended at a clearing, an abandoned lumber mill looming like a skeleton in the dark. Cal killed the engine, and we sat in silence, listening. The sedan's rumble was faint, circling but not approaching. "They're waiting us out," Marcus said, checking his gun. "We need to move on foot." Lila nodded, slinging the backpack with the flash drive over her shoulder. "The farm's 10 miles east. We hike, stay off the roads." Her eyes met mine, fierce but steady. "You ready, Elias?" I wasn't, but I nodded anyway. We slipped out of the truck, the forest swallowing us as we moved through the pines, the air sharp with sap and frost. Leo stayed close, his presence a comfort and a complication. Every rustle made me jump, the weight of the burner phone in my pocket a reminder of Lila's plan. "If we get split up, you know my number." But I didn't want to split up. I wanted to fight, to end this. An hour into the hike, the forest felt alive, every snap of a twig a threat. Marcus led, his flashlight a thin beam cutting through the dark. Lila followed, whispering coordinates to Cal, who carried a compass like it was second nature. Leo and I brought up the rear, our steps quiet but heavy with unspoken words. Then it happened, a low hum like a drone overhead. I froze, my blood running cold. "They've got tech," Leo whispered, pulling me behind a tree. The hum grew louder, a red light blinking through the canopy. A surveillance drone, small but deadly, scanning the forest. The Covenant wasn't just chasing us. They were hunting us with precision. "Down!" Marcus hissed, and we dropped, the drone's light sweeping inches above us. My heart hammered, Leo's arm around me, his breath warm against my neck. "We're okay," he murmured, but the lie was thin. We weren't okay. Not with drones, not with Nathan, not with a network that could track us in the middle of nowhere. Lila crawled forward, her face set. "We need to disable it," she said, pulling a slingshot from her pack, a relic from her protest days. She loaded a rock, aimed and fired. The drone wobbled, its light flickering, but it didn't fall. The hum shifted, homing in on us. "Run," she shouted. We bolted, the drone's buzz a relentless pursuer. My lungs burned, branches tearing at my jacket. Leo grabbed my hand, pulling me through a thicket, his strength a lifeline. We stumbled into a shallow creek, the icy water soaking my boots. The drone hovered, then veered off, its battery or signal failing. We collapsed on the bank, gasping, the forest silent again. Lila's face was grim. "That was too close," she said, checking the backpack. The flash drive was safe, but her expression said what we all felt. The Covenant was relentless. "We're not making Spokane tonight," she added. "There's a hunter's cabin nearby. Cal knows it. We rest, regroup, then push on." The cabin was a rotting shack, barely standing, but it had a roof and a rusty lock. Inside, we lit a small fire, the glow casting shadows on the walls. Marcus stood guard, while Cal scouted the perimeter. Lila spread a map, plotting our next move. I sat by the fire, Leo beside me, his knee brushing mine. The tension between us was a live wire, but so was my fear. I'm sorry, he said, his voice soft, for dragging you into this. For everything. I looked at him, his bruised jaw, his eyes raw with guilt. Why me, Leo? I asked, echoing my question from the cabin. You could have walked away, kept your sister safe. Why risk it all? He leaned closer, the firelight dancing on his face. Because you're not just a job, he said. You're everything. Your courage, your heart. It's what I've been missing. His hand cupped my face, and I didn't pull away. His lips met mine, a slow, searing kiss that tasted of smoke and desperation. My hands found his chest, his heartbeat steady under my palms. For a moment, the world was just us, a fragile oasis in the storm. But the storm wasn't done. A crack split the night, a gunshot close. Marcus burst in, blood on his arm. They're here, he gasped. 3 men, maybe more. We're surrounded. Lila grabbed the backpack, her face pale but resolute. Cal barred the door, but the windows rattled, shadows moving outside. Leo pulled me to my feet, his eyes fierce. We fight, he said, and I nodded, my fear giving way to fire. The Covenant wanted me erased, but I was done being their ghost. As the first window shattered, I gripped the burner phone, Lila's number my last hope. This wasn't just about survival. It was about reclaiming my life, my truth, and the love I was starting to believe in. Understood. The hunter's cabin was a battlefield, glass shattering as the Covenant's men closed in. The fire's glow flickered, casting jagged shadows on the walls, and my heart pounded like a war drum. Leo's hand was steady in mine, his hazel eyes fierce with a promise. We fight. Lila clutched the backpack with the flash drive, her face set with the resolve of a woman who'd faced worse odds. Marcus, blood dripping from his arm, barricaded the door, while Cal wielded a rusty axe from the cabin's corner. Outside, the men's shouts grew louder, their footsteps crunching in the frost. The Covenant wanted me erased, but I was done being their ghost. Elias, get down, Lila shouted as a bullet splintered the wall above us. I dropped, pulling Leo with me, the burner phone slipping from my pocket. My fingers closed around it, Lila's number my lifeline. Marcus fired back through a broken window, his shots precise but outnumbered. We can't hold them long, he grunted, reloading. Cal kicked over a table for cover, his beard flecked with ash. There's a root cellar, he said, nodding to a trapdoor in the floor. Narrow tunnel, leads to the creek. It's our only shot. Lila hesitated, her eyes meeting mine. You and Leo go, she said. Take the drive. Get to Spokane, find my contact, Jenna Ruiz, investigative reporter. She'll blow this wide open. She pressed the backpack into my hands, her grip fierce. You're not just surviving, Elias. You're ending this. No, I protested, my voice cracking. I'm not leaving you. Lila had been my rock, my family when my own turned their backs. The thought of losing her was a knife in my chest. You're not, she said, her smile fierce. You're carrying me with you. Go. Marcus nodded, his face grim but resolute, and Cal was already prying open the trapdoor. Leo tugged my arm, his touch urgent. We'll come back for them, he whispered, his voice raw. I wanted to believe him, but the gunfire was deafening, the cabin shaking. With a final look at Lila, I followed Leo into the cellar, the damp earth swallowing us as the trapdoor slammed shut. Understood. The tunnel was a claustrophobic nightmare, mud slick and barely wide enough for one. Leo led, his flashlight beam bouncing off the roots, twisting through the walls. My breath came in gasps, the backpack heavy with the flash drive, the Covenant's secrets, my family's shame. Above, muffled shots echoed, each one a stab of guilt. Lila, Marcus, Cal, were they okay? I pushed the thought down, focusing on Leo's silhouette, the only thing keeping me from unraveling. The tunnel opened to the creek, the icy water biting my ankles as we emerged. The forest was silent, the gunfire gone, but that scared me more. Leo grabbed my hand, pulling me through the trees. "We need to move," he said, his voice low. "They'll be searching." We ran, the moonlight our only guide, until my lungs burned and my legs gave out. We collapsed behind a fallen log, the Spokane farm still miles away. Leo's arm slid around me, his warmth a shield against the cold. "Well, we're gonna make it," he said, his lips brushing my ear. The gesture was soft, intimate, and despite the chaos, my heart skipped. His kiss in the cabin lingered, a spark I couldn't extinguish, but trust was still a tightrope. "Leo," I said, my voice shaky, "if we get out of this, no more secrets. Promise me." He nodded, his eyes locking with mine. "No more secrets. I'm yours, Elias." The words were a vow, and when he kissed me, quick, fierce, tasting of sweat and pine, I believed him. For the first time, I let myself hope, not just for survival, but for us. Underscore dawn broke as we reached the farm, a sprawling patch of land hidden in the Spokane Hills. Jenna Ruiz, Lila's contact, was waiting, a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s, her pickup truck idling by a weathered barn. "You must be Elias," she said, her voice crisp but warm. Lila called. "She's safe. Marcus and Cal too. They held off the Covenant, got picked up by my people. But you're not out of the woods yet." Relief flooded me, but her words kept me grounded. She took the flash drive, her laptop already humming. "This is gold," she said, scrolling through the files. "Money laundering, blackmail, intimidation. The Covenant's been running a shadow empire through your dad's church. Nathan's their enforcer, but he's not the top dog. Someone bigger's pulling the strings." "Who?" I asked, my stomach twisting. My father's face flashed in my mind, his cold silence when I came out. Was he the mastermind, or just a pawn? Jenna's eyes darkened. "We don't know yet, but this drive's enough to start. I'm leaking it to every major outlet. The New York Times, The Guardian, CNN. The Covenant's done." Leo squeezed my shoulder, his presence steady. "What about Elias?" he asked. "They'll come for him." Jenna nodded. "That's why you're staying here, off-grid, until the story breaks. My team's got security. You'll be safe." She paused, her gaze softening. "You're brave, kid. Not many would take on a beast like this." Her words hit deep, but bravery felt like a lie. I was scared of the Covenant, of Nathan, of losing Leo or Lila. But I was also angry, a fire that had grown since the night my parents threw me out. I wasn't just fighting for me. I was fighting for every kid like me, silenced by shame, erased by those who claimed to love them. Understood. Underscore. The farm became our sanctuary, a quiet bubble as the world exploded. Jenna's leaks hit the news like a tsunami, headlines screaming about the Covenant's crimes. My father's church at the center. Pastor Daniel Harper was arrested, his face grim on every screen. Nathan vanished, a warrant out for his arrest. The Covenant's empire crumbled, but I knew they weren't gone. Snakes like that always slithered back. Leo and I stayed in a small guest house, its windows overlooking fields of swaying grass. We spent days talking, healing, rebuilding trust. He told me about his sister, Mia, whose treatment was now funded by Jenna's network, freeing him from the Covenant's grip. I told him about my childhood, the boy who hid his truth behind church hymns and fake smiles. Our nights were softer, stolen kisses under starlight, his hands tracing my skin with a reverence that made me feel whole. Love was new, terrifying, but with Leo, it was worth the risk. One evening, as we sat on the porch, a package arrived. No sender, just my name in sharp black ink. Inside was a photo, faded but clear, me at 10, laughing with Lila at a county fair, cotton candy in my hand. On the back, in her looping script, "You were never meant to be erased." A note was tucked beside it, from Lila, "I'm proud of you. Keep shining." Tears stung my eyes. Lila had always seen me, and now I was finally seeing myself. Looking back, I see a boy who thought love meant silence, who thought truth was a sin. I was wrong. Coming out wasn't just about being gay. It was about claiming my right to exist, to love, to fight. Lila taught me that family isn't blood. It's who stands by you when the world turns dark. Leo taught me that trust can be rebuilt, that love can grow from broken ground. And the Covenant? They taught me that power built on lies always falls. I'm not the same Elias who walked out of my parents' house, glass crunching under my boots. I'm stronger, not because I'm fearless, but because I faced fear and kept going. The scars, Nathan's betrayal, my father's rejection, will always be there, but they don't define me. I define me. I think about the kids out there, hiding like I did, afraid to speak their truth. If I could tell them one thing, it's this: you're enough. Your love, your heart, your voice, they matter. And when the world tries to erase you, fight back. You're never as alone as you think. If you were in my shoes, what would you have done? Would you have run, fought, or trusted a wild card like Leo? Would you have faced your family, or build a new one? I don't have all the answers, but I know this. I'm still here, still standing, still me. And that's a victory no one can take away.